The Real Madrid Football Club, commonly known as Real Madrid, is a sports institution based in Madrid, the Spanish capital. The origins of the club date back to March 6, 1902, the year in which it was declared and registered as a football club by its members. Likewise, its origins could be located 2 years earlier, in 1900, and its name, in 1901, as Madrid Football. Its creation was carried out thanks to Julian Palacios and the Pedros brothers Juan and Carlos, one of the 3 teams that has not been relegated. Real Madrid, identified by its characteristic white color, is one of the few professional soccer clubs in Spain whose legal entity is owned by its almost 100,000 members. In the case of the vast majority of Spanish clubs, this aspect usually falls on sports corporations S.A.D. Real Madrid is one of the 3 teams, along with FC Barcelona and Athletic Club, that has not been relegated and has always remained in the football elite. Among the awards obtained in the first division of Spain by the club created in 1902 is the historical leader of the domestic competition, the highest score in a single league, and, par excellence, being the club with the most titles. In their showcases, multisport character, the creation of the club in 1902 was always linked solely to football, but it soon took on a multi-sport character that years later was a complete success. Only the basketball section survived with Real Madrid Baloncesto, although there was always the idea of creating the rugby or handball section. A few months ago the absorption by the Whites of Club Deportivo Tacon was confirmed, the thought that has always hovered over Camarton since rumors about a women's football team began to surface in 2010. The characteristic that the basketball and football disciplines of the white entity share is that none of them have been relegated. In the basketball section, only Real Madrid Baloncesto, Juventud de Badalona and Movistar Estudiantes have this privilege, which gives the previously mentioned clubs supreme importance in the Spanish basketball panorama. Like most of the renowned clubs at the European level, Real Madrid is the founder, co-founder and creator of several of the most important Spanish competitions, such as the Central Regional Championship or the Spanish Cup, known to everyone. Expanding the scope to European competitions, the Whites collaborated in the emergence of competitions and associations such as the European Cup, raised 13 times by Real Madrid, the International Cup or the Association of European Clubs of which they are a member. The 20th century, key in white history in the section of sporting achievements, it is one of the most successful, award-winning and recognized entities in the world, both in basketball and football. It has been awarded at the football level by FIFA as the best club of the 20th century, which speaks of the importance of Real Madrid. It also received the award for Best European and World Club of the 20th century. This award was offered by the International Federation of Football History and Statistics, better known as IFFHS. Real Madrid's 13 European Cups in the football section and the 10 in the basketball section place the Whites as the entity with the most European competitions in both modalities as a whole. FIFA Hall of Fame 13 players whose football past was linked to the Real Madrid entity were included in the FIFA Hall of Fame, a project designed to preserve the memory of relevant figures in the history of football. Those chosen were Ferenc Puskás, Alfredo Di Stefano, Hugo Sanchez, Zinedine Zidane, current coach of Real Madrid Ricardo Zamora, Emilio Butragueño, Vicente del Bosque, Ronaldo Nazario, Luis Figo, Walter Preditti and Jorge Valdano. In addition, Paco Genti and Santiago Bernabeu also received the award of Deans of said project, with the club, as an institution, also included. In May 2017, and thanks to a survey carried out in Spain by the Association for Media Research AIMC, Real Madrid was identified as the most popular club in Spanish territory. Its international popularity is also high, since it is one of the most recognized entities in the world, with more than 450 million followers. Real Madrid, as if that were not enough, is also one of the sports institutions with the highest value in the market, which speaks of the high income that the Whites obtain each year. Its value is close to €3.8 billion and its income exceeds €700 million at the end of the season. The Real Madrid Foundation. Likewise, the club has a foundation, the Real Madrid Foundation, created on September 10, 1997 by the club itself, which is non-profit, which is dedicated to the humanitarian, social and training work of the club, and which dedicates its projects and time to the international contribution in favor of development throughout the different countries of the world. The foundation of the best team of the 20th century has a project that combines values and sport, two essential aspects in the correct development of people. The values that are most sought to be instilled are respect, motivation, autonomy, self-improvement, camaraderie, equality and the creation of healthy habits. All of them characterize the work of Real Madrid in all the areas in which it works. Likewise, it develops its project and plans in 5 large areas such as sport, sports training for the correct development of the previously mentioned values, projects with social purposes, international cooperation and institutional activities. Early years of Real Madrid in the National League Championship 1929. In 1929, the National League Championship organized by the Royal Spanish Football Federation (RSPF) began. The domestic competition soon acquired the status of the most important in the country. Real Madrid, a regular in the Spanish championships, took part in this competition after becoming one of the winners of the Spanish Cup Championship that 9 of their teams also won. The defeat against Athletic Club in a match that was considered decisive on the last day ended Real Madrid's hopes and raised FC Barcelona as winner of the title of the highest national football competition. After finishing the second edition of said championship in 5th place, the Whites decided to incorporate into their ranks countless players such as the Spanish international goalkeeper Ricardo Zamora, for whom Real Madrid made one of the financial outlays 150,000 pesetas to Real Club Deportivo Español most important in history. At that time, achievement of the First League, Real Madrid won its first league championship with a total of victories that only the Whites and Athletic Club can boast of. After revalidating the title and having Manuel Olivares as top scorer of said competition, Real Madrid won 2 consecutive editions of the Cup after beating Valencia Club de Vidal in 1934 and FC Barcelona in 1936. The latter had a final of heart attack in which a sensational save by Ricardo Zamora saved Real Madrid. After that match, Zamora announced his retirement from the playing fields. The serious political situation in Spain continued to affect football, a sporting discipline that was forced to suspend all activities between 1936 and 1939. Once the dictatorship of Francisco Franco was resolved, the club recovered its title and its name Real. At the same time, football competitions resumed and everything returned to normal. To White's misfortune, the war left Real Madrid very depleted and with a squad almost without members due to ostracism and the departure of some of its most decisive players to other teams. This chain of misfortunes caused Real Madrid to start from scratch, which required a large financial investment. New players arrived who would be transcendental for the team, such as Pruden, Corona or Bannon. In 1943 the rivalry between Real Madrid and Al Club Barcelona would be born, after facing each other in the Cup's semi-finals. It was there when the biggest win in the history of the Classics took place, with an 11-1 favorable to the Whites after having lost the first leg arrival of Santiago Bernabeu to the club that same year. In 1943, one of the most important figures in the history of the entity, Santiago Bernabeu, would arrive at Real Madrid. Thus began the stage in the club's history in which great feats were achieved. In 1946, Valencia and Real Madrid met in the cup final, with the Whites winning by 3-0, giving them another cup title 10 years later. Despite having the worst campaign in the club's history in 1947 in the league, finishing in 11th position, the club experienced a change for the better with economic measures, especially in the development of new facilities, such as the construction of the new stadium of Camp Martin. In addition, the Plus Ultra Sports Group was created, which would be responsible for bringing promising players to the first team. The team of the 5 consecutive European Cups. The 50s were the golden age of the club. In 1952 they celebrated the club's 50th anniversary, and key figures such as Alfredo Di Stefano, Paco Gento, Santa Maria and, later, Raymond Kopa and Ferenc Puskas joined the team. This stage was known as Di Stefano's Madrid, where they won 5 leagues and 5 European Cups, the first club in history to win it after its creation in 1956. In addition, the record of having won 5 consecutive European Cups continues in their hands, and later, with the change of format to the UEFA Champions League in 1992, they are also the only club to date to achieve more than 2 in a row. They won 3 in a row. Real Madrid in the European Cup was unstoppable with these players, and with the arrival of the 60s, Madrid went into decline due to the seniority of its very successful players. With the arrival of Mikel Munoz as coach, a generational change occurred. The most successful coach in the club's history, Mikel Munoz is the coach who has won the most titles with Real Madrid. He spent 15 years at the club 1959 to 1974 where he won 9 league titles, 2 European Cups, 2 Spanish Cups and 1 Intercontinental Cup. In the 60s he won the league, winning 8 leagues, a Spanish Cup and 2 European Cups. The emblematic players of this era were Piri, Manuel Sanchez, Zoco, Grosso and Amancio. This was known as the Madrid of the Yeye, and Paco Gento remains, to this day, the player with the most European Cups, with 6. 70s. The Plus Ultra Sports Group gave way to the Castilla Football Club, and Real Madrid won 6 leagues, 3 Copa del Rey and no European Cup, having a drought in international competition of more than 30 years. In 1977, Juanito arrived at Cadamartin, who would become a Madrid idol with the legendary snapshot of the Andalusian jumping celebrating the comeback in the UEFA Cup against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and thus reflecting what Real Madrid sentiment is. But without a doubt the most important event in this decade was the death of the club's president, Santiago Bernabeu, who left a legacy of several decades in the club, not only as president, but also in his time as a footballer for the club. In honor of the former president of the club, a tournament was organized in 1979 in which Bayern Munich, Ajax and Milan were invited. Thus the Santiago Bernabeu Trophy was born. 80s and La Quinta del Butter. Real Madrid faced its subsidiary in the Copa del Rey in 1980 at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, where the senior team won by 6-1. This was a unique event that has not yet been repeated in history, and it gave Castilla the opportunity to access European competitions. A year later, Real Madrid reached the UEFA Champions League final, although they lost to Liverpool. They won 2 UEFA Cups, 6 leagues, 2 Spanish Cups and 2 Spanish Super Cups. Returning to Castilla, this is where the series of players were formed who would be vital in the first team years later. With them, Castilla even managed to win the second division championship in 1984, but since Real Madrid was in the first division they could not go up. Alfredo Di Stefano was the coach who made the members of La Quinta del Butter claim the nickname given to Emilio Butragueño. The other players were Martin Vázquez, Manolo Sanchez, Michel Gonzalez and Mikel Pardizao. They won the Copa del Rey, 2 consecutive UEFA Cups and 5 consecutive leagues. The prelude to something big, the second half of the 1990s would be the beginning of what is experienced at Real Madrid today. The resurgence of the best club of the 20th century, according to FIFA, after promoting players like Raúl González or Iker Casillas. The 1995 squad included players like Hammer Vizca, Bio, Quique Sánchez Flores, Manuel Sanchez, Yera, Redondo, Lodrup and Ivan Zamorano. It was a resurgence of the Whites, who saw how a young Raúl González emerged from the youth team to the first team, when Jorge Valdano, then coach of the club, called him up in 1994 to play against Real Zaragoza, where he became a starter. His first goal for the white team would come a week later, in the derby against Atletico de Madrid, where he also participated in Madrid's other 2 goals. These were the beginnings of what would be the captain and emblem of the club. Furthermore, at this time the movement called modern football began, with the arrival of pay television, foreign signings with the Bosman Law or the emergence of companies. The 7th several players from the youth academy later broke into the first team, leaving their mark on the white club. Such is the case of the aforementioned Raúl González, but also that of José María Gutiérrez Guti or Iker Casillas, who turned out to be key in the club's achievement of the 9th European Cup in 2001. But before, Real Madrid stood in the European Cup final in 1997 over 1998, against Juventus Turin of players like Zinedine Zidane, Edgar Davies, Didier Deschamps, Filippo Inzaghi or Alessandro Del Piero. Despite being the clear favourites, Juventus Turin lost for the second consecutive time in the final, after having done so the previous year against Ottimar Hitzfeld's Borussia Dortmund. It was after the goal from Mijatovic, and Real Madrid lifted their 7th European Cup. 2 years later they would win it again, this time after beating Valencia by 3-0, with goals from Marians, McManaman and Raúl Zidane's volley. 2001 Champions League final pitted Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen at Hampden Park. the same venue that saw Real Madrid win the fifth European Cup against another German, Eintracht Frankfurt. Del Bosque's team took the lead in the first 10 minutes with a goal from Ravel, although a few minutes later the German scored. On the edge of halftime he would reach the final goal that would give Real Madrid the 9th European Cup, and it would take 12 years to win it again. Solari spotted Roberto Carlos running down the left wing, gave him a deep ball and he crossed to the front of the area, where Zidane was alone. He placed his right leg, pointed his body and with his left foot impaled a ball that was directed to the right corner of Butt's goal. This is one of the most remembered goals in the history of the competition, which marked the third Champions League in 5 years: 1997, 1999 and 2001. The Galactics. It was then that FIFA awarded Real Madrid the trophy as the best club of the 20th century. The arrival of Florentino Perez to the presidency took place after promising the signing of Luis Figo from Club Barcelona. The Madrid of the Galactico stage began with the signings of Ronaldo Nazario, David Beckham and Zinedine Zidane. In 2002 the club's centenary arrived, and won 2 leagues, and after the high-level squad that Real Madrid had, a period of transition followed, where up to 4 coaches succeeded each other in 18 months. There were 3 years without titles, until José Mourinho arrived at the club. The arrival of Cristiano Ronaldo in the year 2009 was a disappointment for Real Madrid because, despite the fact that Florentino Perez returned to the club with several star signings, Real Madrid, which was led by Manuel Pellegrini, did not win any titles. It was when Karim Benzema, Ricardo Kaká, Xabi Alonso and Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at the club. The following year, José Mourinho was hired, having just won the UEFA Champions League with Inter Milan against Club Barcelona at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. Then the style of play changed, and we saw the counter-punching Real Madrid that at the beginning did not obtain reward, but little by little it imposed itself. They lost the first games against Club Barcelona, and not in any way, since in the first Mourinho Guardiola Classic, Barcelona scored 5-0, which was very tough. They also faced each other that season in the UEFA Champions League semi-finals, with another victory for the Catalans over Madrid in a tie full of controversy. Mus men got their revenge in the Copa del Rey final, in which Cristiano Ronaldo scored the only goal of the match with a header that meant victory in the tournament 20 years later. The League of Records in the 2011-2012 season, Real Madrid held a memorable tournament, winning the league title and reaching 100 points. They would do it after 4 years without winning it, and the irregularity in the regular league championship will be constant to this day. In the Spanish Super Cup that would confront them again against Barcelona, they failed to win, and a brawl was formed in which the image of José Mourinho was seen sticking his finger in Tito Villanova's eye. In the last season of José Mourinho's club, won the Spanish Super Cup against Barcelona, although they lost the Copa del Rey against an Atlético de Madrid that was beginning its progression to the top of the European scene. The achievement of the 10th then it was Carlo Ancelotti, who was in charge of taking charge of Real Madrid, who despite having won 3 titles in 3 years managed to stand up to the best Barca in history. The 2013-2014 season will be remembered for the year in which the white team managed to win the long-awaited 10th European Cup, after having won the last 12 years ago. Furthermore, the way in which it was achieved adds merit to the victory against Atlético de Madrid, who took the lead on the scoreboard and until the last minute of the match Real Madrid did not manage to tie. It was a corner kick taken by Luka Modric. Real Madrid had no other option than to score in the corner, and the ball that came out of the Croatian's right boot hit the head of Sergio Ramos, who drew a perfect parabola to send it into the back of the net. With that goal, madness broke out and Atlético de Madrid sank, while the Whites experienced a surge as a result of the team's comeback. In extra time came goals from Gareth Bale, Marcelo and Cristiano Ronaldo from a penalty, leaving a memorable 4-1 in favor at the Da Luz Stadium in Lisbon. Carlo Ancelotti also won the Copa del Rey against Club Barcelona, with the second goal that gave the Whites victory after a career by Gareth Bale that will not be forgotten. In addition, it added a European Super Cup and Club World Cup to its showcases. It was Zinedine Zidane was then chosen as coach of the first team, and what could not be known is that he would become the coach of the 4 Champions Leagues with Madrid. In his first year he arrived with the season already started, after replacing Rafa Benitez, who did not have the support of the board or the players. A few months were enough for Zidane to position himself as the club's ideal coach, and he reaffirmed himself with the achievement of his first title, the 2016 UEFA Champions League against Atletico de Madrid in Milan. The match ended in a draw, and after half an hour of extra time in which they were unable to resolve the match, they went to penalties, where Real Madrid beat their Manzanares neighbors for the second time in a Champions League final. Cristiano Ronaldo was the author of the final penalty that gave them the title, which would mean the club's 11th Champions League.